Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is London Lamborghini and I'm so happy you have tuned into this video. So today we have a video from Aaliyah Dakota on TikTok. Her socials will be tagged in the description, and she makes corporate survival videos. And the reason why I've chosen to compile her best TikToks in this video is because she gives really detailed and in-depth corporate survival advice. And that has really helped me as a Gen Z autistic adult that has never really had any experience in that world and in that sphere. So I hope you find these videos really helpful and enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and go connect with her on social media too.
I got comfortable. I was so focused on surviving that I wasn't even focused on thriving, and I needed to be. I'm tired of not being real with myself. I want to be a corporate baddie. If you're new here, hi, my name is Aaliyah, and I'm a survivor of not one, but two toxic work environments. Now that I'm in a more positive work environment, the road to corporate baddie resumes. Let's not get it twisted. I work to live. I don't live to work. But I need to make sure that I'm a good candidate in my field. And so I've come up with a little 6-month strategy to get there. And of course, I'm going to share it with you. I need to bulk up my wardrobe. I have a couple of staple pieces, but I could definitely have more, some statement jewelry, and I need a good setting spray because by the time my workday is done, I look a mess, girl. I want to listen to a podcast in my field and then be a guest on one. That looks fabulous on my LinkedIn profile, and I think it's important to hear other people's day-to-day and how they manage their 9 to 5 and balance all the other things. So really, this is field research. I'm not quite sure if I want to go back to school, but while I'm still making that decision, why not take advantage of my job paying for some certifications? This will overall look good on my resume, on my LinkedIn profile, and why not better myself? You know how you lie on your resume? The thing that I most lie about are my Excel skills. I suck at Excel. I don't want to talk about it. Save your comments. I know. I'm excited for this journey because ultimately I'm on the road to becoming a corporate baddie. I'll bring you along with me in case you want to do the same. You have a coworker, they constantly take credit for work that you did. Here's what you do. Snitch. I am so serious when I say that corporate America is full of snitches and you need to get on the bandwagon. I'm sorry. In the streets, is it appropriate to snitch? No. In corporate America, absolutely. Your boss will often believe whoever comes to them first. It just is what it is. And so you need to make sure that you air your grievances as soon as you know that you're working with that person again. There's a strategic way to do that. Keep listening. So what I would say is, hey, I noticed that I'm being partnered with so-and-so on this project. I'm excited to work with them, but I do want to let you know that the last time we collaborated, they took a lot of credit for my work and it made me really uncomfortable. Do you have any advice on how to embark on this new project and still make sure that we both have equal credit for the work that we've contributed? What that does is it makes you seem like a team player. It makes you seem like you are eager to do the project, but you're also letting your manager know that that sneaky little coworker has been snatching up your work and claiming it as their own for a long periodically time. If you have a good manager, they should give you strategies on how to deal with this coworker. But if not, at the very least, they know that this person is basically like plagiarizing your ideas. And if this is a person that you are like presenting with, and they often will like read your ideas off of your PowerPoint and pose them as their own. Another thing you could do is just have key points that like jog your personal idea so that you can speak to the idea without them taking it. If you are not collaborating with this person on a project and they just take your ideas when you say things in passing, there are 2 other things that you can do. The first thing, stop telling them your ideas. Clearly, every time you bring something up, they don't have the brain to conceptualize their own thoughts, so stop saying things to them. The other thing is go directly to them and just call it out professionally and say, hey, I notice every time I bring up this, this, and this, you kind of regurgitate it in our leadership meetings. Like, what's that about? Hear them out. If they're a decent person, they will be mortified that you caught on to the foolishness and they will apologize. Also send a follow-up email, making sure that you're documenting for HR. So something like, hey, I enjoyed our chat. Thank you so much for the apology. Like, it really meant a lot to me. and keep it at that, because that also tells that person that you have peeped the fact that they have been taking your ideas. Don't be afraid to assert yourself. When you hear your idea being presented in a meeting or in passing, say something like, oh yeah, James and I were talking about this earlier when I shared this idea, and I think this, and this. Or, hey, I actually was the one like speaking to that client, so like let me jump in here. Light, but also you're inserting yourself to say, hey, like this was my idea. I was talking to this client, or I was doing this, and don't do me, you know?
My last corporate email etiquette post really triggered some of you, and I think I know why. Let's get into it. To give you a little bit of background, I love wordsmithing emails in ways to both create boundaries and to sound just a bit more proper. Usually this entails being a bit more formal, but I'm going to get into why I think that's appropriate, especially when you are someone like me. So if you are a person of color, a woman of color, or a Black woman specifically, you are kind of under a microscope in corporate America. Oftentimes, our facial expressions and our tones are read into a little bit more than our white counterparts, and that even feeds into email. Considering those two things, if I reply to a long email chain or a long email saying sounds good, period, that's more than likely not going to work in my favor. And so I love wordsmithing to, one, make it seem like I'm more engaged, two, it is a form of appeasement and playing the game, and three, tone over email is tricky. So the more words that you use, the more successful you'll be at getting your tone across. And sure, it can be triggering because a lot of times it's corporate jargon, etc., etc. But I more see this as a strategy to protect myself and to document for the long run. I can see how sounds good, period, could be misinterpreted as being short, but I can't see I agree with this initiative, looking forward to next steps, could be misconstrued. So basically, you're leaving less room for interpretation and the tone police. We just all don't have the luxury of being super casual via email and sending emojis, so this is just what I like to do.
Mistakes I made in my career was telling people what I really thought.
This is 1,000% true. And I would argue that there is a really strategic way you can go about a process change. And if you are new here, hi, my name is Leah. I'm a survivor of not one, but two toxic workplaces, and successfully did lots of change implementation while I was in both spaces and in my current role. My first tip in change implementation is you really have to take emotion out of it. You are getting ready to embark on a journey, and that journey is like culture shift, process change, and those things are already hard for people. So if you approach it really just, laid back in a cool manner, that'll do you a lot of good in the long run. The second thing, have smaller side conversations. Let me tell you what I mean by this. If a process is trash, it's probably pretty apparent to the whole team already, right? So you just bring it up in conversations. You don't schedule any meetings, but you're like, man, wouldn't it be great if we did things like X, Y, and Z? And then you kind of like have this dialogue and you go back and forth. You're not necessarily proposing anything yet. You're just surveying the team to see if we all agree that the current process is trash and to get some other ideas. Okay, the third thing that you do. The next thing, you're going to set up a meeting, but it's going to be informal, right? In this meeting, you're going to bring, the conversations that you've had with other people, and the people in the meeting are also very important. There are people who are on board with the process change, right? So then you say, hey, what if we try it like this for a little bit? And just test the waters. If it doesn't go well, go back to the drawing board, or maybe just shut up and wait for it to come up a little bit later. But I find that like small conversations, using people's ideas, and really like tiptoeing through will probably be your best bet to like implement change. I find that when you come to leadership with problems, they're not as receptive of like you coming to them with data, with the problem statement, and being like, and here's what we're thinking. And I feel like that really goes a long way. Let me know what you think. Can you stay true to yourself while also playing the game in corporate America? Let's talk about it. I always share like snippets of my experiences. And those experiences don't necessarily come from my current job, just my entire corporate career. And there's always a debate in my comments. I have people who really feel like it's important to play the game, do the song and dance. And I feel like there are people who are completely against it, won't change how they feel about it. So it's like, which is the most appropriate? I think there are like 3 answers to this, truly. Okay, the first answer. If you want to elevate and your career is the only thing that you care about, sure, play the game. And there are some personality types that can like handle it, you know? And if you can, and if that is your ultimate goal, then I respect it. Okay, then you have the complete opposite of that person, right? You literally have someone who is like only about their paper in the sense that they will not be playing a game. They will be doing exactly what they're required. And that's it. You will not know anything about their personal life. They're not like exchanging niceties, like just to make people comfortable. Like they are just like getting in, getting out, head down, antisocial. And I also think that's fine. And I think that that should be respected because different people value different things, right? And there's a third thing, which I would argue is my approach. I do a little bit of both. I am approachable, I am extremely nice, and I do play the game. However, I do not divulge my personal life. Back when I was a baby in corporate, that's something that I did do, and I was a little too loose-lipped, and it ended up like biting me in the butt. So I quickly learned that I can't present the same way some of my other coworkers do. I'm also not willing to like compromise a bit of who I am just for the workplace. Authenticity is very important to me. And so I genuinely do not feel good. I don't feel true to myself when I have to put on this entirely new persona. I take a lot of pride in like being like my core self in every space because there's a time and place for everything. You know what I mean? And that's even like outside of playing the game. Like if I list off different environments, you are going to be different people in each environment, but still true to you, right? So just think like work, church, if that's your jam, the club, just certain ways to act in certain environments. And I really strongly believe that you can do that without changing like your entire personality. That's kind of like how I see my like personality shift in the corporate space. And let me know which one of the 3 ways you approach work.
It's time that we talk about this. Until maybe 2 days ago, I've been very strategic about how I talk about corporate America on this platform. I'm very careful about saying, you know, this is how I handle things in corporate America. These are the things that I say to my coworkers. But from the comments from that video, it's very apparent that we are all experiencing the same thing. It's amazing to me how none of us know each other, nor do we work in the same industries or departments, and yet the experience that I had in my video is pretty much universal. If you don't know what I'm talking about, take a peek at my last video where I really break down microaggressions in corporate America and how I respond to them. As a Black person in corporate America, you are not allowed to just do your job. You also have to perform in a way that makes your white counterparts comfortable. That means coming to work with a smile on your face, being very agreeable, checking your tone, etc., etc. And as we learned in my last video, your facial expressions. You just aren't allowed to have a bad day or just to have an off day even, because it will quickly get called out. Not even out of concern, more so of like, oh, you're not yourself. If you don't want to be here, you should quit. We're looking for someone who's really passionate about what they do. Always the comments on your demeanor and not necessarily the quality of your work, which is exhausting. So many of us are dealing with it, and with the decrease in DEI efforts, I don't know that it's going to get any better. I would really love my corporate girlies and my HR girlies specifically to really tap in, because the video had lots of comments about like reporting these things to HR. But the thing with microaggressions is that they're so slick and so retractable that it's really hard to have a paper trail, and really ends up as this like he said, she said thing. If you kind of bring it up like more pointed, it's like, oh, you're taking it the wrong way, you're being sensitive, I didn't mean it like this, I meant it like that, and then case closed. So that's why I sort of say the things like, oh, what an interesting thing to say, or funny, you would say that out loud, you know, things like that, because it gives them a moment to self-reflect. And when they start retracting, that's how you know they've made the connection and that you won.
But truly, if there are people in HR that have a different take on it, please let me know. But I have always been under the impression that HR is like for the company and not for the girls. But if I'm wrong, please educate me in the comments. Oh my goodness, when I tell you, I wish this article existed when I was just a baby in corporate. It would have saved me so much drama. Let's get into it. So a little bit of background about the article. This person is writing in, and it's someone that they really admire in corporate, right? They were meeting up and they were hoping to get some answers for some things that they were inquiring about. But instead of getting those answers, this coworker then starts to vent about the company, their experience, the list goes on and on. The person writing in even says that like the things that they were venting about kind of was outside of the workplace, and maybe they need to see a real therapist. But they were feeling a little bad because they took more of a step back approach, hands off, and kind of like was a listening ear but didn't really get into it. But then after the fact kind of felt a little guilty because, as I said earlier, this was someone that they admired. I'm here to validate this person. You did the exact right thing. Something that I did when I was just a baby in corporate. I wanted everyone to essentially be my friend. And I'm so embarrassed to actually admit that. Oh my God. Because of that, my office quickly became the safe space, right? Everyone would come in, everyone would vent. And it came to a point where I just knew too much about too many people, even our executives, and I was uncomfortable. And, sometimes being a baby in corporate, I would give advice, give my thoughts, but then that quickly turned into my name being brought up in things or what I said getting misconstrued. And I just ended up in some drama that was really avoidable. Had I read this article sooner, I would have never approached the corporate space that way. And I think I would have had a much smoother time. Anyway, I absolutely adore the cut. And wouldn't it be such a dream if I could respond to an article like this one of these days? That'd be so fun, right?
I'm sorry, black girls, but they not gonna leave you alone at that job, and they gonna.
No, because when I tell you that recounting my weekend to my coworkers is an Olympic sport that I'm a gold medalist at, and I can tell something about them. They're just itching. How was your weekend? What'd you do? And they're not satisfied with the simple, oh, I just chilled. I just watched TV. Because then it's what you watch? What you did? Where'd you go? And I just don't like all these questions. I genuinely don't know what it is, but I do know when you don't talk about your weekend plans, it very much is oh, she's quite standoffish. She's not really social. She's very rude, actually. I feel threatened. Corporate America is a game, and you have to play. This is part of that game. So yes, I'd be lying, honey. Sometimes I go on weekend trips. Sometimes I go hiking. Sometimes it's just the farmer's market, but you'll never know what the truth is. One thing I do know, you can't tell the truth. You can't tell the truth. Some of my coworkers, though, you ask them what they did for the weekend. Oh, yeah, I was super drunk. I went to the club. I had so many mimosas. I'm still hungover now, but happy Monday. Oh, what?
Better question, how many of y'all have a white man that's your mentor or sponsor?
It's me. I have 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. I will preface this by saying, though, this man wasn't necessarily a mentor I picked for myself. He kind of made me his mentee, if that makes sense. But let me tell you my story, girl. So I was pretty good at this job, to the point where only within 6 months I got a promotion and I switched bosses. So one day that old mentor summoned me to their office and was like, hey, I need help with this, this, and this. Just a laundry list of the things that they wanted me to do. So I said, oh, sir, this no longer falls within my scope. To check with my current boss to see if I can take on these extra tasks, et cetera, et cetera. The jargon that you're supposed to do. This man goes, and I quote, well, you owe me. And this promotion has gone to your head. You need to remember where you came from. And what do I owe this man? Because I got a promotion because of my skills, because of my hard work. It had nothing to do with him or his additional boost mentorship. No, it had nothing to do with this man. But he definitely tried to. He definitely tried it. And so I hope this is not your story. If it's not your story, I love that for you. But just know that if you have one, be prepared for it to get thrown in your face. I think there's a special type of person who you choose to be your mentor and who is okay with seeing you elevating, yes. But beware of the people who are self-proclaimed mentors and want to mentor you. Red flag, red flag, red flag. I missed a huge red flag when I was just a baby in corporate America, and I don't want the same thing to happen to you, so I'm gonna tell you what it was. And this is just how my brain works. Like, I literally was just putting my makeup on and was like, oh my god, I completely forgot about that. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking and tell you what it actually is. So, be aware of companies that always have some sort of like reorganization launch, reorg structure, moving around directors. My very first toxic job went through a reorg 3 times, which means I had 3 different bosses, even though my title remained the same. And you guessed it, with every reorg, my boss got worse and worse. This is a red flag because you are literally being led by people who felt the need to reorganize your whole structure, which means that like they don't have like a strategic end goal in mind. Your leaders are literally floundering in hopes that switching around a few managers is gonna do the trick. Spoiler alert, it won't. And one by one, those 3 bosses dropped like flies, leaving behind a really dysfunctional team, unorganized processes, you name it. So if you have multiple organizational restructures within a couple of years, run. Okay, I feel like there's 2 strategies to this. This person is asking, like, what do you do? And they pull the power play in corporate America, like asking you to schedule a meeting that they could very well schedule themselves, asking you to forward something. Just, you know, when your equal is acting like you're their employee, right? So the first thing, we can weaponize our incompetence. It's depending on how petty you're feeling, you know what I mean? You're trying to make it as inconvenient for them as possible. Say they ask you to schedule a meeting. Oh, okay, sure. What day? What time? Is there an agenda you would like for the meeting? Who would you like invited? Make it complicated. You see where I'm going? Do you see where I'm going? Or if you want to boss up, if you want to stand on business, here's what you do. You say, hey, thanks for the request. I'm currently working on this, this, and this, and can get to your request a little later. If you would like it done sooner, I'll defer to you to figure it out. Or please ask someone else. It's just depending on your mood. You can use either one of these strategies, but let me know which one you choose. And let me preface this by saying, don't judge me. I was just a baby back then. I was a baby in corporate. Now I know better. Now, you always hear me introduce myself saying that I'm a survivor of not 1 but 2 toxic work environments, but we never really get into the nitty-gritty of it, do we? Well, we're about to get into it, and I'm sharing so that you can plan your escape just like much sooner than I did, because I stayed for far too long. The first toxic work environment, it was a very small environment. There were not very many of us on the team, and when it's a small team, the dynamics are tricky. Now, the first red flag was that this manager had never managed a team before, a team of people, 1 person, zilch. When they were like transparent about this, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're so self-aware. This is gonna be awesome. Like, it'll be this dialogue back, you know, like it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. Very quickly, I realized that this person had no idea what they were doing. It got weird. There was this false sense of closeness that this manager had to me, to the point where like lots of my boundaries were being violated. There was a time where they asked for a tour of my house virtually. There was a time where they wanted to see my wedding registry so they can figure out where I was getting married. But then I was feeling weird about it. I was not comfortable, and like definitely took a step back from sharing. And you can guess that's when things went south. So when I stopped sharing, I noticed the attitude shift. This person got really weird, really testy almost, and in turn retaliated, which is the second red flag. Essentially, they felt rejected as a friend. And so because of that, it affected my corporate life. All of a sudden, I was assigned random tasks that had absolutely nothing to do with my job description. I got pulled from lots of important meetings that I actually enjoyed. And before I knew it, was extremely isolated and became super siloed. I no longer worked with anyone for a long time. And you know when in your gut, you like feel something and you know that something's wrong, but you can't put your finger on it? That's how I was feeling. And now I know that when I was getting pulled from these things and getting pushed into these random projects, that person kind of was controlling the narrative about my work ethic, you name it, honey. I was getting thrown under the bus, under the rock, all the things. I was there, okay? Just like really set me up for failure. And when I expressed interest in helping out more and being a part of different things, I was quickly just shut all the way down. The last red flag is that this person, though they were doing all these things to me, they still wanted to be seen by me as favorable, if that makes any sense. Like very interested in me, still trying to get details out of me, while still, you know, slandering my name. They even on multiple occasions offered to be my mentor. When someone offers to be your mentor, I don't know, run for the hills. It's giving not genuine, you know? The list goes on and on. I'm not thankful for my time in a toxic work environment, but it's definitely molded me into the corporate baddie I am today and has provided me with the tools to give y'all tips and tricks. But let me know if you want to hear more.
You know, corporate America is so sneaky. I'm convinced that people have like these little strategies that they do just to like undermine you. There are two things that really like grinds my gears. The first thing, if we're equals, don't tell me to schedule something on your calendar. I'm sorry. If you want to meet with me and you're like, yeah, just pop something on my calendar. Yeah, my calendar's up to date. Babe, be so for real. Like if you don't schedule that meeting and send me an invite, like come on. Come on. Okay, the second thing, kind of in the same category, right? If there's a meeting invite that we are both invited to, but then you email me asking to forward it to someone, because if you have access to it, you can just forward the meeting invite to someone else. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's like a little power play, but let me know what you think. Am I being too sensitive? I got too comfortable. I wasn't standing on my P's and Q's, and I needed to be. Just because I'm no longer in a toxic work environment doesn't mean that bad things aren't gonna happen. Let me explain. If you're new here, my name's Aaliyah, and I'm a survivor of not one, but two toxic work environments. And now that I'm in a healthier work environment, I'm trying to get rid of the old habits that I accumulated from surviving in a corporate space that was toxic, while also learning how to navigate a corporate space that's just like normal, but still bottom line corporate, if you know what I mean. This week I struggled, struggled. I got comfortable because, I was like, oh, this is so nice. People aren't as like blatantly rude, backstabbing. But that's not always the case. Some people do it in a sneaky way, quietly, if you will. So always document, always be over communicative, keep a folder of all your wins and contributions to the company, and always, diligently check in with your boss.
How do you say?
It's been brought to my attention that you maybe had a conversation with my boss that wasn't entirely true. So I thought it would be appropriate to reiterate that I need no extra support when communicating to my manager. I realize that you were trying to translate on my behalf, but please know that that is no longer necessary. I hope you have a great weekend, and please reach out if any questions arise. This is a corporate reminder, be over communicative. I am currently fighting for my life because I work quite independently, but another coworker has been falsely updating my boss. Document, record, do all the things to cover your butt because there are still snakes out there, even in 2024. Like, it'd be people who have a big age. I'll be over this by tomorrow, but I'm annoyed. Another thing, what's the most annoying is that no matter who's right, people tend to believe the person that they hear first. So, yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times someone has tried me in the workplace, but after getting tested multiple times, I've kind of come up with a strategy that kind of tells them off, but like in a professional way. If someone says something really dumb or really inappropriate, I kind of pause. I make direct eye contact and I'm like, did you mean to say that out loud? Or what a odd thing to say aloud in front of everyone. And then kind of like wait for them to get uncomfortable. And then depending on what it is, if it was super out of pocket, I would follow up with an email. Like, hey, so-and-so, when you said that Black women should always be bubbly in the workplace, could you expand more on that and why you feel like it's inappropriate if we have a bad day? And just wait for the response. But really what you're doing is you're documenting and you're creating like a log so that if you do have to elevate to HR, you have your receipts. You know what I'm saying? You really should only have to do this like 1 to 2 times before the person messing with you knows that you're not the one. But I do know one thing. If you continue to let someone talk to you crazy, they're not gonna stop. So you kind of have to like nip it in the bud immediately. I hope this helps, and let me know if you want more tips on how to confront someone who's a bit of a bully at work.
No tea and no shade, but life is too short to be stressed out over a job.
So I 100% agree with this, but I have a theory as to why this happens.
The corporate American culture has gotten really good at glamorizing workaholics. Another thing that they've really succeeded in, and I say they, like the powers that be of corporate America, another thing that they've really succeeded in is almost this intersectionality of your position, your work position, being part of your identity. First, let's talk about the glamorization of workaholics. Think of your favorite shows, right? Think of Grey's Anatomy. Think of like the latest lawyer show, right? They're working on a case, they're working late. They have takeout, they're kikiing, but then they have problems in their home life because they've been working too much. But their spouse or their partner doesn't get it because it's just the life of a lawyer. Another example, Grey's Anatomy, their personal life is very much entwined with their work life. And so the lines are very blurred, which speaks to like all the relationships are happening, but that's normal, right? They're doctors, there's long hours, like it's just gonna happen. Just in TV, film, there's always gonna be a character with the archetype of being a workaholic because that's something that's supposed to be relatable. Okay, now let's talk about how work is intertwined with your identity, right? There is a prestige that comes with certain type of jobs. Like it just is what it is. If you're a doctor, people are going to be impressed by that. And so being a doctor aside, because you care about how you're perceived, both in work and outside of work, when you're talking about what you do, it's something that you want to excel at. It's something that you want to do well at, which kind of speaks to people being so stressed when there's this huge workload. I think the core fear is that they're going to fail at the assignment, at the task, etc. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it's very easy for this to happen, and you almost have to make a conscious decision not to give in to the archetype of a workaholic, of someone in corporate America, because it's very easy to start speaking the corporate jargon and wanting to hit metrics and loving what you do. Like it's very easy to get wrapped up in that. So I get why people are losing sleep about presentations because their job reflects them in a way, right? I don't know. I don't know. I completely agree with this creator. If you haven't seen the whole video, definitely watch it. But they're basically just saying like you're not going to catch them stressed about a job, losing sleep, etc., etc. But I feel like in order to say that, we've kind of just like all been there, and then we had to wake up to make that realization that we will no longer do those things. Let me know what you think. I don't know.